Real quick, I just finished a career that may be longer than most of your ages. I spent 37 years in state and local government here in New Jersey. I am a local government geek. I love local government in New Jersey. I spent 25 years overseeing new finances of all our local governments. That's 565 municipalities, 21 counties, over 300 authorities. I didn't do schools. And over that career, I found some of my most satisfying personal experiences was working with journalists to get good stories about local government out, either when I was working for state government or when I was a town administrator. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and participate with this today, because this is where the next stuff is coming from. It is how people are going to figure out what government does, and the people in this room are those people who are going to be doing it. So I'm going to talk for a few minutes, and I'm going to move pretty quick. I want to say right up front, I'm going to be here the rest of the day. I'll be here tomorrow morning. I don't expect to be here late this evening. However, I am just more than happy to help anybody out. If you have any questions about how government, state or local works, data, I'm a guy who knows a lot of stuff about government. So, that said, let us go. Government bureaucrats are not evil. Some of you may have had experience that makes you think that, but they're not. Here's the catch. You have to separate out the people who are politicians, who are worried about running for re-election, who don't like negative stories because they make them look bad, and then when they look bad, they don't get votes from people, and it gives them their opposition something to use against them when they run. The process people are, on the other hand, are the good guys. They're the ones who really want to help. And most bureaucrats, and I use that term generically and with a little bit of fun, public administrators is probably a better term, but these are the folks that really want to help out and do their job and help the public. It's about public service. However, everybody gets criticized when things go wrong. And as many of you will know, when people screw up in government, there's usually some outcry for their heads, which means people in government like keeping their heads down. And in some cases, that may mean they're not going to be so easy to give information out. They may put up obstacles to that because they're concerned about what happens with that information and how it affects them, their career, and their bosses. There is often a lack of trust that public administrators have with journalists, or in most cases, their editors. All right? They've been burned. Stories get blown out of proportion. People don't understand, journalists don't take enough time to understand the story. Right? And some public administrators get a little bit shy when that happens. Right? So you've got to build trust and confidence that what you're doing is a good thing to do and you're not out to play gotcha. And yet that happens in the journalism world because you guys, journalists, are supposed to come up with stories that are going to grab people's attention, and nothing grabs people's attention better than stories that, beat up on government. It's unfortunate, but we have that. But there are always exceptions. There are bureaucrats who get it, who want to work with journalists, who want to get stories out there about what's going on in government, how things are affecting them. Trust is important, right? And I urge you to develop trust and confidence with the folks that you work with. It's a political entity, not a business. Right? In government, it's the bottom line is harder to find. Right? Priorities are different. It's not about a financial bottom line, which is what you have with the business. It's a different motivation. People think differently. It's further complicated by the fact that many governments have policy leadership changes every couple years. Businesses don't do that. Businesses are reliable. They know what their job is. Their management gets consistent. Only in government do you have changes in policy and changes in management potential every 2 to 4 years. That's at the local level, that's at the state level. It's an interesting challenge because people don't always know what's going on. Another complication is that government traditionally lags the private sector when it comes to the adoption of technology and just about everything else. Right? About 10, 12 years ago, I spent a lot of time talking to local government officials about this thing called the web and the internet, and that they had to think about putting websites up. They said, why do I want to do that? All right? Why do I need to tell people about all those things? And why do I need to spend the money on it? I said, Doesn't matter whether you think you want to or not, you're going to have to, because that's where society's going, which means you're now going to have to invest more of your resources, more time, attention, and money that you never had to do before on this new thing. And it took a while, and we actually still have a couple towns that don't have websites in New Jersey, but we're generally getting there. Governments also move incrementally and not with grand, bold strokes. Right? We've seen it at the federal government under the Obama administration was really able to embrace the concept of applications and moving data onto the web. Right? The folks up in New York State started a real interesting debate about a month ago when they published the list and did a mapping of all the people that had gun licenses. And there's a huge debate going on, and Jeff Jarvis and his Buzz Machine has weighed in on that. He's got some really interesting comments, and I don't think he's going to be here tomorrow, but I'm going to probably post something on his site saying, I'm not sure that answer's all that good, that everything just because it's held by the government makes it public. You have to have a public discussion about which data makes sense to publicly release, because just because it's collected for a government purpose doesn't. Right? And that's the way government folks think. There's also some concern about data that, government taxpayers paid for the collection of information, and a lot of folks are taking that data and monetizing it. Should the public get a piece of that back as revenue? Generally speaking, the answer has been no, that we don't get to charge a market value for that data and offset the cost back to taxpayers. Right? Government, you taxpayers have been eating the cost of developing all the new data, getting it out on the web, people can use it, which includes private sector taking that and monetizing it. And in many cases, monetizing it very well. That doesn't make it right, but that's one of the considerations that government folks think about. Laws do not reflect the easy accessibility of data, and there is a sense of protecting mission or personal data that drives some agencies. And at the end, there's just some folks who want to control their data because it's theirs. It's a possessive type of thing, and we really need to beat that out of those folks. There are exceptions. We talked about the state transparency website. Department of Transportation has a great site and puts all kinds of data up on their site. The state's Office of Geographic Information Systems also does a really good job of putting information out there. And most importantly, journalists are asking for more data. Right? When you have questions, yes, go to agencies, do Oprah requests, talk to agency administrators about what they have and what they can make available to you. There's the challenge of understanding and using technology. Over the last decade, as IT capability has increased, state and local government has lacked the resources of time, attention, and money to fully embrace new technology. If any of you have ever tried to deal with property tax information in the state, you'll know that the program that the state uses to maintain parcel-based information is a 40-year-old COBOL program. All right? 3 or 4 years ago, the people in taxation got the idea, well, maybe we can download it and put it into an Access database, which they've done, which really opened up the availability of that information to people. And it's been a tough thing to do. Money to invest in upgrade and replace systems that were not designed to provide data is scarce. When I was doing my old job and dealing with property tax information, nobody in state government was putting out property tax information on a timely basis. Division of Taxation, which owned the data, did just very little. Well, my organization, I kind of decided, well, we're going to put this stuff out there. We took their data, repurposed it, put it into spreadsheets, and put it on the web for other folks to use. We don't do a lot of analysis, but boy, Star Ledger, Gannett, always took that information and made really good, compelling stories out of that. We just provided the data, made it easy for folks to get at it. And now my organization, those of you who follow local government, you're going to see over the next couple years, they've now got the resources to start automating things, and you're going to see a lot more data be available through them. Presentation of data is not necessarily a journalistic end. Look for that compelling story that informs discussion and is newsworthy, or provides the basis to turn that data into news or action. Not all data is interesting. Some of it's really boring and not terribly useful to anybody. All right? Just because the data is there doesn't mean it has news value. Think about that stuff. Find common ground with your bureaucrats. Can you assist or complement what they're doing with the use of your data? you may be able to help them. It may be worth talking to the agency administrators if you're dealing with data from an agency. Say, hey, what are you looking for? Do you have all the resources to do what you want? Maybe we can help you with that. Be editorially fair. Don't abuse sources and stories for a cheap headline or a cheap shot. People hold those things, take that personally, and they may not be very helpful to you the next time that you need help, all right? But when political folks are doing things badly or behaving badly, clearly you have to hold them accountable for that. Before picking a fight with a government agency, really try to solve the problem that you're having with them. Just because somebody says no once doesn't mean that's a permanent no. Go further up in the channel. Try to find out what the problem is, why they're saying no. They say they don't have the data. Well, is it that they don't have the data or they don't have it in a format that they think you can use? Well, maybe you can use it. Maybe you can take a bunch of pages of PDFs and put them into a scanner and do text conversion with that. There's lots of software that can do that. So you can use that type of information. They may be reaching conclusions about what they think you can do or can't do. So talk to them and try to solve the problems. Be adversarial only as a last resort. Being adversarial does have its place, but also remember it can have consequences of a long duration. On the other hand, those people you're dealing with get replaced in the next couple of years, then the problem goes away. I've needed to push through this presentation very quickly. As I said, I'll be around most of today and tomorrow, and we look forward to helping you. Thank you.